Welcome to Argentina, the world's 8th largest country, a vast land that features endless majestic plains, deserts, tundra, forests, mountains, rivers, thousands of miles of breathtaking ocean shoreline, and bartering centers that serve millions of poor Argentinians who are employed, but their pay is worth nothing because the peso has become so devalued it's almost as good as paper.
Argentina is struggling to survive.
Millions in Argentina are struggling.
The first time in decades, inflation in Argentina has surged past the 100% mark.
The country is an economic paradox because it went from being richer than France and Germany in the early 19th century to a struggling developing country with rather strange economic problems that just won't go away. Hello explorers, I'm Mr. Thinker, and in today's video I'll aim to answer the mystery that baffles even the best experts. Why is Argentina's economy so hard to fix? Allow me to start by asking you a question. How would you like to live in a country where annual inflation is over 100% and the interest rates are also near that number? Yes, this is how bad it's been in Argentina in the past few years because inflation there is the 3rd highest in the world, behind only Venezuela and Lebanon. If that's not enough, 4 out of 10 Argentinians live below the poverty line, which means they can barely afford to buy food. Reality is so hard for millions that they engage in bartering. Yes, they buy and sell by trading things instead of paying with money. For example, Carlos grows chickens and trades their eggs with flour from Arianda because she has a small wheat farm. Some of you might be thinking, well, at least they have cheap meat such as beef. Even though your thought is reasonable since Argentina was notoriously known as an exporter of beef, the truth is, even though in the past few years the country banned the export of beef to bring down the prices for the local population, the prices remained quite high. Well, maybe a little too high because I spoke to people down there who work and their pay is not enough to get one person a Big Mac with fries and a drink. I was shocked after hearing this too because in early August 2023, the government of Argentina lifted the ban on exporting beef, so it still doesn't make any sense to me why beef is so expensive down there. Here is another baffling and rather insane fact about Argentina. The country has more than $230 billion in circulation, and I'm not talking about the government which can only wish to possess this large sum in its treasury. No, I'm talking about the people, because as it turns out, the peso has a different value every day, and thus you can buy a bag of rice in the morning, but you can wish and dream of knowing how much it will cost you later in the day. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it is. Price uncertainty in Argentina is not normal, and you can rarely bank on the fact that many necessities will have the same price for more than a few days. So the entire middle and upper classes exchange their pesos for US dollars and never keep their wealth in pesos because the currency might become as good as toilet paper and worthless any minute. Which happened in Venezuela among a few other places as their currency depreciated to the level where everyone became a multi-millionaire, but because their money is so worthless, they couldn't buy even a can of tuna with it. So the good folks of Argentina use the US dollar a lot more, even though such practice is banned by the government. But let's face it, if the government knew how to connect A to B, the country could be rich. Anyway, I've been thinking and decided to throw some hard official figures and data at you to make things more clear. Argentina's annual inflation rate soared past 70% in July 2023, the highest level in 3 decades, and it could hit 90% by the end of the year. Meanwhile, bartering is on the rise, and even the central bank has empty reserves, so it just keeps printing pesos, which is causing things to get worse. The country is also drowning in debt and literally gave lenders, including foreign lenders, the middle finger in 2001 after it stopped paying interest on $93 billion worth of bonds. The country had a $40 billion debt from the IMF, which it can't pay off, but it managed to get another $44 billion loan from the same IMF recently. So now it has about $260 billion in national debt, while its hard currency and gold reserves amount to about $25 billion. And all the government is doing is protectionism, spooking off foreign investors, subsidizing everything it can, turning the whole nation into a hardcore welfare state, and nationalizing everything. The situation is so bad that the country imposed a 30 to 50% tax on exports just to get its weekly fix of hard currencies, which it spends right away, and pay off some debts while nothing goes towards fixing the economy because the money is barely enough. We are pretty sure that the country has already burnt the recent new $44 billion loan from the IMF, which, by the way, is partially to blame for the problem because the IMF made it a condition that Argentina must keep inflation and interest rate in parity. So if inflation is at 100%, then the interest rate must also hit 100. Needless to say, the good people of Argentina have the right to hate the IMF for such ridiculous nonsense conditions that did not work in the past. To be honest, I think the IMF and other major lenders are trying to force Argentina away from communism, nationalization, and protectionism at any cost, and they may have been using these loans as a trick for coercion. What I'm about to say might surprise you. Argentina should reduce subsidies, welfare, corporate welfare, nationalization of resources and other assets, reduce export tax, and quit printing pesos, and instead, they have to open the country to foreign investors, reduce taxes, and focus on creating jobs. I am also one of those people who support Argentina and Brazil's joint effort to create a common export-import currency for the whole continent of South America, which, coupled with serious foreign investments and industrialization, can gradually lead the country out of the ongoing crisis. Additionally, Argentina can do a lot more to attract tourists. The vast nation is like a massive paradise, yet it's not well advertised, and tourism is rarely encouraged. This sector alone can bring billions in revenues, if managed correctly. But sadly, potential tourists like me had to cancel visiting Argentina after hearing that I could end up paying as much as 50% in tax on some transactions, such as trying to withdraw a few $100s from an ATM machine, which is a desperate measure by the government to keep foreign currency reserves in the country. But let's get back to the fact that Argentina used to be richer than France and Germany in the past. In the early 1900s, Argentina was richer than France and Germany combined. Its agricultural and manufacturing sectors were booming, but the country was on a date with a leader who knows more about fantasies than reality. That person was Juan Peron, a general who became a powerful Secretary of Labor with the arrival of the military dictatorship during World War II. In charge of labor relations, pensions, and social services, Peron offered endless wealth. A few years later, he was president. Sadly, and even though many Argentinians still like what he did to the country, the fact remains that economically speaking, he was illiterate and did not create solid foundations for long-term economic prosperity. All he did was patchwork and turn Argentina into one of the biggest welfare systems in the world by heavily subsidizing utilities, transportation, and retirement benefits for all its citizens. Imagine this: in Argentina, a household pays as little as $5 per month for electricity. In stark contrast, typical Italian and German households are likely to pay around $300 and even more during winter these days. Even fuel is heavily subsidized, which means the entire energy sector in this country is a burden on the government, while in reality it could be a source of lucrative income for the government. The same goes for natural resources, farmland, and the agricultural sector, among others. The government did not and simply seems to be unable to turn these sectors into sources of taxes and employment. Instead, the government almost entirely relies on taxes imposed on exported commodities as a source of hard currencies. In 2023, the government hiked export taxes on processed soybeans, one of its top commodities, to 33%, giving soy growers fits, but offering a way to squeeze more out of one part of the economy that is working. It's quite baffling because the government cannot run the economy, but at the same time nationalized many giant corporations, especially in the energy and telecommunication sectors, as if it can manage these companies. These moves, which started as far back as 2012, made investors run to the hills and look for exits. While almost every country on the planet is doing everything possible to attract foreign investment, Argentina is literally doing the opposite. Of course, it didn't work, and the economy continues to collapse. For some reason, the government seems to not understand that while maintaining a robust welfare program and generously subsidizing utilities seems like a great option in the short run, this system cannot be sustained in the long run without foreign investment, mega industrial and farming projects, and robust economic planning. Down there, politicians are living on a different planet, and no one wants to bear the responsibility or take decisive action in the right direction. Too many competing politicians are influenced by an ancient school of thought that is not compatible with the modern global economy. Even the welfare system is not working, as more and more bartering centres are popping up around the country because the poor simply cannot make ends meet. Wages are extremely low, the national currency is almost worthless, and the prices of everything are insanely high and rising. In a nutshell, the country needs some experienced economists to help run the show, and some serious local and foreign investors. So, do you think Argentina can get out of the decades-old curse of frequent inflation and currency devaluation in this vicious cycle? And how? Let us know in the comment section below, and please like, share and subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you, and see you next time.